My name is Bob Sohn. I'm the chair of the Underhill Selectboard, and I will call this regular scheduled select board meeting to order. Today is March 23rd, 2024 is 6 o'clock. It's a special meeting, I'm sorry. Is there any opening public comment? There's no one here at the town hall. Is there anyone remote from the public that would like to make a comment? Seeing none.
No adjustments to the agenda?
Any adjustments to the agenda? Dan, Patty, no?
Nothing for me.
Okay, the next thing will be, we'll go right into the next item on the agenda will be consider the fire permit software. Parker Ripley is joining us tonight. He's our fire warden. Parker, thanks for being here tonight.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So what can you tell us about this?
So over the past couple of years, I've been doing some research to see how we could streamline, maybe make it easier, more tech savvy for people to get a burn permit besides just always calling and myself, Nate Goldman, or the fire department during business hours to get a burn permit. And about a month ago now, I was at the state fire wardens meeting in Essex Town, and I was inquiring to some other fire wardens about it, and they had told me about this burnpermits.com, which is a web-based platform that a resident can go to, and they put in their information and name, address, phone number, email, and they do that once. And then anytime somebody wants to burn, they there's a number you call and it activates a burn and it records a burn permit. It is a program that we can, myself as fire warden or Nate Goldman or whoever has an admin access, can set the burn risk for the day. It can be automatically approved or manually approved, due to conditions. So, looking outside with the snow that we have now, there's really no risk at all. Permits could be automatically approved, and it would send an email to us and notify me and Nate that a resident is burning at a set address. It's also a benefit to the fire department, as it gives a map of every day of who's burning and where. So it has a map of Underhill, and it'll show a little flame at that address. We did a demo 3 weeks ago, I guess, Bob, with this company, and it's completely customizable. So we can put all the Vermont state laws in. I can shut down and say there's no permits going to be issued at any time due to weather conditions. And if we have some folks in the community that are not tech savvy to use their computer and do this, then anybody that's an administrator can go in and fill out their name, their address, then email if they have one, and all the person has to do, the resident has to do, is call the number from the number that they designate they're going to be calling from, and it activates that permit for the day. I believe it'd be a huge time saver for me, as I do the fire warden as a volunteer, if you will, and I work a normal day job, and so doesn't Nate. The guys at the firehouse, they've got other things. They could be out on medical calls, fire calls, all that kind of stuff. And talking with the chief of Williston and chief of Essex Town, it's a very economical way to do it. There is a cost to it, So I usually issue roughly 350 permits a year, and you pay per credit. So you would have to buy 5,000 credits, and that would equal out to about 500 permits. And those credits never go bad. So anything we didn't use, you know, say this year, would roll over to next year. And yes, we'd have to buy more, but there's documentation besides just a burn permit that myself or one of the other people I appoint to write permits can have. And I think the state is behind the times. They're looking to develop their own software, but that could be 3 to 5 years down the road. And with this program, I think it'd be a benefit to the town, the fire department, to do something like this.
So, thank you. Are you looking to make a recommendation to the board then, Parker?
Yes, I'd like to make a recommendation to the select board that we, if possible, move to this platform of um, issuing burn permits this way.
So, and I guess in order to have discussion on this, I'll move that we entertain this idea of $500 to buy the 5,000 credits to go through this burningpermits.com program. Is there a second? So it's been moved.
Oh, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? I guess before we get into discussion, I was assuming that because this is fairly new, that we would be able to find $500 in the select board contingency portion of the budget. It's not a huge lift, so that's where I was thinking that money could come from. And then in future budgets, we could probably allocate $500 into the fire warden's budget to cover this type of program if it's going to make, the fire warden's job easier, type of thing. So that was my thought.
So from the contingency fund, you're suggesting?
Right. Because we have, I don't know if Jennifer's with us or not, but if she could give us an idea of like where we might be at with that now, I would assume that there's at least $500 that we might be able to, allocate for this. If not, Russ has told me that there's several bottles and cans that are on New Road and on the Pleasant Valley Road that we could probably acquire.
You just take it out of the highway fund. He's got enough.
Right.
So, question.
Yep.
Parker, when somebody issues or applies for a permit, do they pay a fee at all for it?
They do not pay a fee at this time.
Okay. Another question would be, how would you get the word out relative to the software would be available? If we approve it, we move to the platform. How would you promote this so that folks know where to go to apply for a permit?
I would do front porch forum, put it on the town website, put it in my voicemail. Somebody calls and says they want to do it, get a burn permit. The new process is you go to this website, and then it's one of those things. I'll still take phone calls. I have no problem with that. I'll still answer questions, go out and do everything I already do.
Okay.
And if somebody needs assistance, I'm more than happy to, walk them through the process or do it for them, if they do not have access to a computer or are not tech savvy.
Okay, great. And my last question is regarding the software. Is the software, I was a little confused on that, is the software a state-based software or is it an independent software system?
It is an independent software system.
Okay. And
The
every
state
year
is
we
basically.
would,
Sorry.
I think you might be getting some reverb because of the mics being activated here on this end.
okay.
So So if you speak, if you just mute,
Okay,
it's easier for them.
got it. If it's an independent software, remind me, we have to pay annually for the software. Are there any other fees associated with the software?
No, there are not. And it's not, if we don't use all of our credits, they roll over. It's only when we run out of credits. The also a benefit of this is if weather conditions change throughout the course of a day, it goes from a low risk fire day, and all of a sudden the winds come up and it's a high risk. Those people that have permits, I can send a message out to them saying via whatever they choose when they're filling out the permit, email, text, or phone call, that at this time your permit is voided due to weather conditions and the fire needs to be put out.
So I was involved in this demo when we went over to the fire station. This company, I think, is out of Canada somewhere. So
I
think
believe
about
so.
it like this. Yeah. So think about it like this, like buying minutes for your phone is the way his analogy, right? So the software is just, it just comes with it. You buy these credits. And as I said, everything does this credit. The only thing I would say is, Parker, for somebody, I get quite a few burn permits myself, and I usually text Parker, and then he texts me back, and some people call. I just think it might ease up on some of Parker's responsibilities, not being available like 24/7. That's all I had to say.
He also has the ability, I asked Mandy, Brad, and Parker to sit down at the fire station and listen to this company give their presentation. And you can tailor this to our town's specific needs. So if we ever had any ordinances, or we want to follow exactly what the state's doing, you can absolutely tailor this to whatever you want. And it does give, Parker and Nate Goldman the ability to communicate, I think, really effectively with people, should conditions change. And I don't know. I was impressed with, and they have several surrounding communities around here that are doing it, and they seem to all think it's, the greatest thing. So thought we might give it a try.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I just wanted to get clarification on the cost, make sure we didn't have some pop-up surprise fee that you end up getting whacked with.
Not what I understood, but I think it's also a benefit to the resident, right? Because they don't need to wait to hear back from Parker. It's just Parker set the database up, so if it's good to burn that day, or if he feels this certain person can just get, automatic approval, it just happens.
You ready for the question? All those in favor of allocating $500 to move forward with the town, obtain the software licensing for this burnpermit.com, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. We'll get in touch, Parker, with Jennifer and folks here, and I know they have a credit card here. Might want to wait until next week, type of thing, but we should be able to move fairly quickly.
Yeah, we can touch base and we can set that all up as working with you guys. Anybody down there that wants to be involved, and we can get that set up when you guys are ready.
Sounds good. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So the next thing on the agenda is the committee, board, and town officials appointments. And I have a list of those as soon as my machine wakes up. So I think we'll move independently the animal control and tree warden, and then we'll do it as a slate for the rest. So I would move that we reappoint Jennifer as the animal control officer with her term to expire March of 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of appointing Jennifer as the animal control officer, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. I'll move that we reappoint Don Toby as the Underhill tree warden. Is there a second?
Second.
Good.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of appointing Don Toby as the tree warden with his term expiring in March of 2025, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. I'll move that we reappoint the following to the Development Review Board. Charlie Van Winkle with his term expiring March of 2027. Dan Lee, expiring March of 2027. Penny Miller as an alternate with her term for 1 year. Meg Armstrong as an alternate for a term of 1 year. Mark Hamlin as an alternate for a term of 1 year. And Mark Green, who will be stepping down away from the DRB this year. And many thanks to Mark for that. So with the move that we accept that slate, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of appointing the folks named in the just now to the Development Review Board, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. I move that we, on to the Planning Commission, I move that we appoint Brian Tijan, am I saying that right? Tijan, with his term expiring March of 2028. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of appointing Brian to the Planning Commission with a term expiring in March of 2028, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. I move that we appoint Steve Webster to the Energy Committee with a term expiring in March of 2027. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please, all those in favor of appointing Steve Webster to the Energy Committee with his term expiring in March of 2027, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Recreation Committee. We have Anton Kelsey with a 3-year term expiring March of 2027, and Isabel Tuck with the term expiring in March of 2027, and Seth Friedman will be stepping away from the Rec Committee, and many thanks to Seth. Is there a second to appointing those folks to the Recreation Committee?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of appointing Anton and Isabella to the Recreation Committee, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. I don't think there's anybody else. Okay.
I
That's
just
it
want
for
to,
now.
on the record, say thank you to everybody on all these committees for stepping up and doing the work that they do. Everyone does a great job. It makes the town work.
Can we get a letter drafted to Seth and to Mark and signed, so thanking them for their years of service? I think it'd be nice to just
Yes.
send them a letter and I can sign it. And
Like we did last time.
Yeah.
Sure. Can do that.
all right. Next on the agenda, 618, is authorize the signature for the FEMA grant reimbursement, the town incurred expenses for 12 Dumas Road. There was this document in the packet. Brad, do you want to
Yeah.
go over that a little bit for everybody?
So we the town incurred some costs. We had a UVM do a archaeological assessment. This is for the FEMA buyout at 12 Dumas Road. So UVM did a historical analysis and a report. That's part of the process. And then we had an appraisal done, a real estate appraisal. So this is to get reimbursement from the state for those two things, and it's in the sum of $1,626.44. The appraisal came in quite a bit higher than we had estimated when we first started this process, probably 3 years ago. So we were going off of older real estate numbers as kind of a guess. We were actually using our old grand list numbers before pre-reappraisal. So the appraisal came in quite a bit higher. So we're working with the state and state emergency management right now to try and figure out a path to keep this moving. So it may be through FEMA, and it actually may come out to be through the state, through a state program instead. Either way, it's still the same procedure. There'll be no match from the resident and no match from the town. However, if we wanted to do some in-kind work, that would be greatly appreciated, such as like if the last time we did a buyout, I think we filled the cellar hole, or something like that. But we could talk about if the time comes. But we haven't committed to anything. Okay. And so we're just trying to figure out a way forward to get it done.
So do we need a motion to approve this?
Or I would just
Or is it the consensus?
authorize the chair to request the reimbursement.
So I move that the board authorize the chair to sign this authorization to try to get reimbursed for the expenditures to date for the 12 Dumas Road property. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Do you need the amount, Brad,
Yeah, you
listed
can just,
in the
it's
motion?
$2,600, 26.
Or 1,626?
Right.
$1,626.44.
Yes.
Hang on a second here. I just need to take a stop here because I don't think my battery, I don't want to die.
This question is not necessarily related to the expense, but with the higher appraisal, will FEMA pay the buyout price? Or
Well,
what?
that's what we're working on. We need to renegotiate. It was all based on the older, it was all based on an appraisal. I need to get this power
Okay.
on or we're going to drop the whole thing.
All right. We'll take a short recess while we're dealing with a technical difficulty. For those at home, we're going to mute on this side, but we're dealing with a electrical issue.
Just notice the,
This would be the time we could do the interpretive dancing.
I keep practicing that.
That's right. Dancing at the end, it'll be nice.
Interpretive dance.
Well, I bet you're glad that we're doing this tonight and not tomorrow night. Might be a little spicy tomorrow,
Saturday too.
right?
Good plan.
Right.
I think I should be the one getting asked if I'm ready.
We know you're ready.
We're ready.
Almost ready.
Are we ready?
When you say, there's something to be worried about, there's something
You guys ready?
all right.
We are.
Is everybody still with us here?
We're back on the record and back from our recess, and power's been restored and all is good in the universe here in downtown Underhill.
Yes, I just have flashbacks.
Solar eclipse.
Right, and it kind of fits, doesn't it? Just a little bit. Well, we haven't voted on this, I don't think, did we? Okay, so there's a motion on the table to authorize the chair to try to get this financial reimbursement for the 12 Dumas Road in the amount of $1,626.44. And it has been seconded by Patty, right? Or did Dan second that?
I second.
Okay, Dan seconded. So is there any further discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. So I'll
So-
sign this.
Yeah, sign that. And I'll just note that those numbers you're seeing, Dan, I think that's what you're referring to. Those will be changing as we redo the grant in some form here.
Okay. Well, I'll sign this after you start going over the 2008, 2024 solar eclipse, Brad. What's new?
I did talk to the state representative for Forest and Parks, the person that's kind of dealing with all this. And he sent me a link to the state's website, and obviously the parks that reside in Underhill are not being promoted. He also sent me another link that's called like Trail Finder, I think. It's a Vermont, New Hampshire website. And you pull it up and there's a map of Vermont, New Hampshire. And when you zoom in, you see the 2 state parks. You see the Stevensville Trailhead, the Mountain Road Trailhead. You click on those, a big red thing comes up saying everything's closed and will remain closed. So they were very happy that we were closing the highways to local traffic only. So I'm going to reach out to the state, the actual people that my contacts that deal with the day-to-day, and see if they've got any signage they're going to put up. The sheriff is willing to be here for whatever hours you want him to be here. So I think that's what you guys should discuss. And he would like to know the hours you'd like him here and what you'd like him to do.
So I would like him to be here during the eclipse. So meaning that if he could be here sometime mid-morning and be done by 5 o'clock. So if you'd like to work an 8-hour shift here, 8 to 5, that would be fine with me. And my expectation would be that largely just make himself or herself available should something arise. I'm not necessarily looking for them to be running radar or any real specific duties. You know, I kind of give them carte blanche to do what they think that they need to do, but I am concerned that with the numbers that people are saying are going to be in the area, it may take in public safety being stretched thin. It would be nice for the residents, I feel, to have someone stationed up here in the event that something goes wrong. So I have no real expectations of them if they wanted to just be here and work on reports, or if they wanted to run radar, or whatever the case may be. I trust that they will be productive. I don't know if we really need to give too much direction as far as, you know, they know what they can do. And I just,
Yeah, this is just a little above and beyond because we sign a contract with them for speed control, right? That's their primary function. But I think it would make sense, sure, run some speed control, just cruise around town, see what's going on. Kind of like he does in a wind event or a flood event.
and I guess I'm concerned about, it's going to be hard with people parking wherever they feel that they need to park. And I don't know what, I don't know what's going to be reasonable, given this event. As far as,
Jennifer has her hand up.
Yeah.
dealing with Stevensville, we were going to
Right.
try to keep that road clear so that if there is an event, that, rescue or fire can get up Stevensville or the mountain road or all the roads. There is a traffic ban.
Well, they will be closed, but I'm wondering if it's more important even to have them here in the morning, because that's when people are going to think they can approach the mountain, and they will be disappointed because there will be signs there. So I wonder if you just need presence.
8 to 5 and have them patrol the center and, the area around.
I think you should be checking Stevensville Road and also Mountain Road. And just keep an eye on what the activity, both traffic and what's happening on both areas. And if people are, congregating on Silly Hill parking area and clogging Mountain Road, then he can take care of that. He can let folks know you can't park here. There's only so much parking relative to the capacity that's in the parking area. But if he can go back and forth and just monitor that.
You said Silly Hill. I think you meant Casey's Hill.
Casey's Hill.
That's right. It's another C word. I did. I just want to make sure
Casey's
you.
Hill.
That's
I
right.
meant Casey's Hill.
That's all right. Jennifer has her hand up. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, sorry that I can't be there in person, but given that Dan's about to go traveling for a month, and I know that it would be irresponsible for me and feeling the way I'm feeling to be there in your actual physical presence. So I'm here virtually. I think this is great. I just, inserting myself as the finance officer, want to, make sure that we are all aware of what the cost would be for them to patrol 8 hours. I think they're charging us about, I think it's $68 an hour in our contract, but I think it would be good to find out what they're going to charge us for this day and to know where we're planning to take that money from on the budget. And also to be specific about what we're asking for that day. I think those are really important things, so that he's operating, so that we're all transparent about what we want him there for and what it's going to cost the residents of Underhill.
So Jennifer, he's basically just going to take that, we have him for 10 hours a week, right? So he's going to take this 8-hour block and just use that as his weekly. There's no extra cost. He's just going to bunch all his time up into that one day.
Okay.
No extra costs outside the contract. That's what I understand.
Okay.
So the expectation would be is that not just focus on speeding, but to make sure there's access to the roads
Exactly.
and be available should an event arise and they need law enforcement for whatever the reason may be, that they would, hopefully be available to assist wherever they need to be assisting.
So if traffic is clogged with parking, he can facilitate and deal with that before it becomes an issue. That would be the goal.
Well, he's one person, so
Understood, but
he
if-
can do the best he can.
Right,
but-
exactly. I understand it's one person and it's a long time slot, but if we have presence, that will facilitate people acting rationally, I'm hoping.
I think we could all be out there a little bit in a capacity, I can be, and do my part just to let people know that, hey, we have a winter parking ban, you can't park here. But I'm not going to get into a fight with them about
Exactly.
whether I'm just going to be polite and say you can't park here and that's it.
I agree
On
with
that.
Brad. I think the residents we're talking about 2 roads that are really highly impacted by this potentially. I think the residents will all be aware of this. I'll personally make sure everybody's aware of it, and we'll make sure that they understand that the reason that we want to make sure the road is free is because we need to keep it free if there's a weather event or any kind of health emergency or fire. The roads need to be open and maintained. And I think just having him down there and kind of patrolling the area will help also.
So another thing is I talked to Richmond Rescue today. They reached out because they have a backcountry rescue or whatever they have down there. So he just wanted to make sure that there'd be access. He kind of heard through the grapevine that we'd be closing the road. He wanted to make sure that if their services were required for any kind of a mountain rescue, that they'd be able to get there. And I said, certainly. I was planning on doing a front porch forum, Jennifer, post, because there's a lot of links from the state that Forest and Parks gave me, and I want to just craft it in such a way so people understand where to go for information. So I didn't want to start too early. We're what, 2 weeks out from it. But certainly next week I'd start a series of posts just to let people know where they can get more information, let them know that the trails are closed, what the town's planning on doing with Mountain Road in Stevensville.
Yeah, and my worry is not necessarily the residents. My worry is folks coming and just trying to get a glimpse.
Right, but residents need to understand what the plan is too, right? So, and residents will have guests maybe coming, so it's some place to start, and it'll be on our website too. So.
Any other discussion on the solar eclipse? All right, moving on to the Underhill animal control issue. Jennifer?
Yes, I have a few points that I just wanted to bring up with you guys. 3, actually. Number 1 is I received many calls, 3 specifically that I responded to in the last several weeks regarding dogs running off of their owners' properties into the roadway. We did have one confirmed bite of a person on a bicycle. And I have followed up with all of the dog owners. I have followed up with the bite victim. But in response to that, I also realized that it was getting close to spring, and that's when this starts to happen. So I wrote a public service announcement poster. I sent it to all of our neighboring towns. I put links to all of their ordinances, and I also sent it to the Mountain Gazette, and they were nice enough to publish it. Because this is something that I feel like all, not dog owners and also people, who are out recreating, walking, running, biking, or even driving in their cars shouldn't be subjected to people's dogs off leash running in the roadway. So that was the first thing I just wanted to make you aware of. The next thing is an incident that occurred last Thursday on Krug Road. It occurred on the property of Steve Webster and Barbara Yerrick. A commercial dog camp called Queen City Dog Camp. Not to throw her under a bus. She sounds like she's a very reputable person, and certainly the residents of Underhill wouldn't be using her services if she wasn't great at her job. But an unfortunate incident occurred where one of 5 dogs that she was walking, while given permission by Barbara and Steve to use her property, one of the 5 dogs was their dog. There were 4 other dogs. I don't know the owners of those dogs. This pack of dogs attacked the neighbor's dog, Mike Riley's dog, it's common for him to walk his dog in his backyard and wander into the Steve's property there where the solar panels are. He didn't have any idea that there was a commercial dog walker who was going to be walking with 5 dogs. And the dog was brutally attacked and nearly died. Brad has a visual for you to see the severity of the injuries. I did follow up today with Mr. Riley, and the dog is healing and doing well. But I wanted to bring this to your attention because I feel like this is an opportunity for us to pause and talk a little bit at some point, not today, but at some point, about if there's any regulations that we should have in place for commercial dog walkers. Because you can say that someone can come use your property, but if you have 5 dogs who aren't yours off leash in a pack, they don't know where that property line ends. And this tragic event will happen again. And next time, I'm afraid it could also happen to a young child or anyone else wandering on these trails. And these trails wind their way right up Beartown and up Mount Mansfield. So I wanted to bring this to your attention and let you know that I have a call into Dylan, who runs this particular dog camp. But Sherry and Amanda and Brad and I know that there's at least 2 other dog walking groups or companies that also do come to Underhill. And while I just feel like this is something that we need to talk about because it has potentially devastating results. So those are the 3 points that I wanted to bring up. Oh, that's 2. And the last one, not as exciting as the first ones, is just that I wanted to know if we should establish a fee for my services when I consult or do go on a call for a neighboring town, specifically Jericho. I went on several calls last month, and I'm also acting in a consulting capacity for the new animal control officer that they hired, Olivia. And while I get paid a stipend on a monthly basis, I feel that I am being paid and I'm insured and covered as an employee of the town of Underhill. And if my services are being utilized in another municipality and it's okay with you, that we should be able to bill them, and I should be able to say, I'm happy to do this, and it will be at a fee of $55 an hour plus mileage or something to that effect. So I wanted to bring that up with you today so that we could discuss that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's certainly something that we should talk about. I am concerned about other municipalities utilizing our resources. And I think that's been going on for some time. And I think that there needs to be some balance when it comes to that. So we can certainly put that on a future agenda to have more of a discussion on that. And I'm also concerned that if we have a dog bite or an attack, however you want to phrase it, on a resident's dog, and it seems like in the report that I read, and I read it fairly quickly, that we don't know who the actual owner is or anything like that. So I'm concerned that my understanding of the statute is that they're required to report that dog bite to yourself or to the town when they know that this has happened. So I'm concerned, but I also have faith that you're on it and you will deal with it the way that you always deal with things, and we'll see it through. So thank you for what you do. Is there any other questions for Jennifer as far as the animal control?
I just caught that. We don't know who the owner is of the dog who was the violent dog? The
Well,
dog?
it was a pack of dogs. One of the dogs that was in this group of dogs was the Barbara Yarrick and Steve Webster's dog. That was not the aggressor. The dog that allegedly was the one that was, on top of this dog and ripping it apart was a dog that was not an Underhill resident. And it's my understanding, although I haven't made contact, the dog is vaccinated and that the dog will not be coming for its walks in Underhill anymore with this person. But I'm still not satisfied with those responses. So I have a little bit more legwork to do on that.
Yes, it would seem like there would be some responsibility that would need to be taken by that owner. I'm talking about financial responsibility as well. I mean, the vet bills must be exorbitant.
So far, well over $1,000, and I spoke to Mr. Riley about that as well. This dog walking organization is fully insured. It's my understanding, and if you think about it, if you hire a company to walk your dog, you're basically putting we don't know that this owner even knows that this person took their dog all the way out to Underhill. The company's based out of Winooski. So I think that I don't think it's the dog owner's responsibility. I think it's this company that they put their trust in, that they were going to keep their dog safe, and allowing this dog to be off leash and attack another dog seems to be really the responsibility of the company. But again, I need to do more research into that.
Thank you. I'm also concerned that if this is a problem with other municipalities, or if this dog has a history of these type of things in other communities. So I welcome your investigation into this and trust that you will do what you need to do.
Well, I will, and I'll let you guys know.
Okay. It's now 6:43. We're ahead of schedule, but I think the folks from the Mills-Riverside Park are here. I'm sorry. Public comment is reserved for the beginning and at the end of our meeting. So nope, you can wait. We have a closing comment period on our agenda that's going to be coming up. We have the Mills-Riverside Park, the town highway report, and then we'll be having a closing comment period. It's scheduled for 7:45, but we are ahead of schedule. So as soon as we get to that point in the agenda, we'll be more than happy to take public comment at that time. So the Mills-Riverside Park dog issue, Libby Strong, and I believe this is Kim Spalding, is here tonight. Thank you for coming in, and how can we help?
That was a perfect segue with Jennifer. Thank you very much for having that. And I do have her poster that she has posted. We, in Libby Strong and I are both members of the Jericho Mills-Riverside Park. And we have issues with dogs as well. There are pack walkers as well. Most people are on leash, but there is an off-leash area, and there have been dog bites and aggressive dogs. And we are interested in and have spoken to Jen Silpe and are interested in retaining her services if we do need to have her come for an incident at the park. Sort of have her on call.
My understanding is that the park is largely in the town of Jericho, although there is portion of the park that isn't in the town of Underhill. I think that, I don't want to speak for the entire board, but I think that it might be a faceted approach here that we will definitely, I know that Jennifer is our go-to and does a fantastic job for the residents of the town of Underhill, but I'm concerned about burning Jennifer out. She's been doing this for many years, and she keeps reminding us that I'd like to find someone else, type of thing. And she loves what she does, but I'm also concerned about, we have a partner in this that I think needs to bear some responsibility and needs to answer some of these calls as well. And I think that we need to work together towards finding a solution, especially when it comes to the park, because the park is in both towns. So I'm not negating what you're saying, but I do think that Jericho has some responsibility with how we approach it. Maybe we need to come up with a task force or some type of committee that can pull some ideas together and then report back to maybe both the boards and figure out how we're going to deal with this problem with our friends and dogs and pets and cats and whatever else are going around the park.
We agree. The Jericho Selectboard meeting is tonight as well, and we have 2 members over there speaking with them as well, and hopefully we'll retain Olivia's help as well, who's their animal control officer. So, and as board, we're short a position as well, but there's 6 of us, and we routinely, I have a dog, and we routinely, I don't want to say patrol, I walk my dog there a lot, but are there to remind people to be respectful of others and keep their dogs under control. But it is it's a difficult problem, as Jennifer has alluded to.
It seems to me that because you are paying for this out of your budget, which is approved by, paid for by both boards, the select boards don't really need to be involved in the decision. You folks can make the decision and can contract, with folks, according to your guidelines. That's my impression, unless there's something I'm missing.
What I understand, if you're talking about animal control officers or contracting beyond that.
Yeah, and sharing the expense of that or whatever. We don't need to approve the expense because we've already approved your budget as a part of our town budget in the percentage that is so designated. So
I think we wanted to come to the select board. I've been with the park for 24 years. I've had 5 calls in 24 years that I've dealt with. Jennifer and I have worked together, and Ed Steigels and I have worked together, both towns, depending on circumstances. So it's not often by any means. I doubt that there'd be much use if who knows. But what we have found is a frustration, and Kim was mentioning, is that we do have some few, but they're still there. They come to the park and we talk to them and we ask them to put their dog on leash, ask them to not bring any aggressive dog to the park, talk to them repeatedly, and they just, put the dog on a leash, walk 20 feet. As soon as they're out of sight, but they're taking the leash off, or they're bringing a dog that they shouldn't into an area of off-leash dogs, and they have an aggressive dog. It does happen. And Jennifer and Olivia came to our park district meeting a few months ago, and we discussed it. the general feeling of our board, besides patrolling or walking, we all do a lot of that. And the willingness to pay, no problems there as far as the board is, the Park District Board is concerned. But what we were thinking is that we might have a little bit more oomph in approaching some of these serial offenders, however you want to call them, who just basically disregard whatever you say. And we thought, okay, when we get to that point, where do we go? And we as a board sat and thought about creating our own ordinance. And then we got into that, and the more we got into it, the more cumbersome it became for a lot of different reasons. And it boils down to, among other things, okay, now we have this ordinance. Of the 7 board members, who really wants to approach a dog owner with a pad of paper with duplicates and a pen in hand and confront somebody? And that was beyond what any board member wanted to do. So then we thought, well, why on earth would we create an ordinance that would give us the authority to do something if nobody really wants to do it? So we had this conversation with Jennifer and Olivia, and we thought, let's explore this idea of having, as has already happened when Jennifer and I worked together, a particular husky that left the park property, went after a chicken, brought the chicken back. Dog owner said, oh, that's a pheasant. No, that's a chicken. And so that was one of the situations. But we felt that as a board, that would give us a little bit more oomph working with some of these. And they're few, I want to say few, but they're persistent.
Is it a fine structure, with that ordinance?
Rules. Excuse me, Dan?
Do you have a fine structure with that ordinance?
We didn't get that far.
Okay.
That ordinance, we did a lot of research, and we thought it was a great idea. And then we looked at the creation of an ordinance and what's involved with that. Of course, you need a legal representation, make sure that it falls within the Vermont statutes, and on and on and on. But the bottom line is, even if we authorized ourselves to enforce, who wants to do it? And not me. So at some point we just decided, well, why don't we explore working with the animal control officers?
Well, perhaps what we should do is that we should appoint someone from our board and someone from the Town of Jericho board, and someone from the Park District get together.
Okay.
Having some experience with this back in the late 90s, working in the state of Minnesota, that it's not uncommon for recreation departments to have a park service officer, kind of like a park ranger,
Right.
that has authority. And that may be something that the Park District needs to consider, is that if you have rules and regulations and the rules aren't being followed, or they're causing hate and discontent and not spreading goodwill and cheer where you want it spread,
Right.
then perhaps this is something that, you want to consider, is having a park service officer or, a park ranger that deals with these types of things. And, they would have, kind of like a lifeguard, they would have
Right.
some rules and responsibilities of patrolling the park and dealing with that. And they would be funded from both towns. But I think that that may be where we're at, is that you're coming to us with a problem. And I think that we acknowledge the problem, but I think because there's so many different players that need to, stakeholders, that we should probably, I think, work with getting the stakeholders together to kind of figure out what's the best course of action to solve this problem. And I don't know if it's necessarily with just animal control, that there may be other issues that the park has that go beyond animal control. I'm guessing, type of thing that, with cars going over there, or, doing things that they shouldn't be doing or whatever. So I don't know if that would be welcomed by you folks, if we could, appoint someone to, work on this task force and see if Jericho would be willing to do that. We can ask Brad to contact John and see if they could get somebody on their side to get together.
I just have a simple question, and maybe you all are thinking the same thing, and Jennifer can answer it, but do you have jurisdiction? Like, say you went over to Jericho, Jennifer, do you have jurisdiction to operate in your capacity over there?
I have never, my authority's never been questioned anywhere, even when I've gone and helped in the state, as long as I'm upholding whatever that local ordinance is. So, that's why it's always worked. I mean, no one's ever questioned it. I'm an animal control officer and I'm enforcing an ordinance that exists in the town, in that municipality.
So I guess that would be, I would offer that as a solution to you,
Okay,
is that we will take it under advisement and we will get back with you as far as one of us would act as a representative on a task force. And then I welcome, hopefully Jericho will, see that there's some logic behind that. And then maybe the three parties can get together and
okay.
map some solution out. Does that sound reasonable?
If you decide you want an animal control officer part of that, I'd be happy to be on the task force as well.
Okay.
Super.
So not saying no, I think they would just need
No,
but I do think we need to get the three amigos together
Sure.
and to work this out to see what we need to do.
Yeah, I think when we had already passed our budget, so we didn't have a budget item, but we did discuss possibly hiring. And it gets complicated because it's all day, 7 days a week. It's not, even if you hire one person, they can't be there all the time. So, but as I said, the board is over. I'm there daily. I'm at least once a day, and Kim as well, and the other board members. We're over there. We're educating dog owners as we go. But as I say, the compliance is very, very good, but we do have some folks that just, are difficult.
Well, I commend you for the efforts that you do because it obviously is paying dividends because you don't get a lot of complaints, but every once in a while one slips through and,
Sure.
It's hard to have a perfect score when you have
Right.
just volunteers that are trying their best to make it all work. And I think you guys do and provide a great service. It's just a matter of how can we work together to make it even better.
That makes perfect sense. So Brad, we're going to wait.
We'll get back with you.
Okay.
We'll discuss this
Okay.
more.
Okay.
And then we'll let you know who our representative is and see if we can get Jericho, and then the three parties can work together to figure out a date and time. And I welcome if you want to try to use this building to facilitate or wherever would be more convenient to have a meeting.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. It's 6:58. It's the next item on the agenda is the town highway items. Russ is here. You have several things for us to talk about, and take it away.
All right, first thing on our section is the 2024 crack sealing estimate for the blacktop roads. We've had a 3-year contract with the company Fresh Coat out of Barrie. This is the 3rd year on the contract. So we have received the updated numbers for this year, which I think goes up $1,000 a year.
Yeah, it's part of the contract. It goes up a certain percentage each year, but it's $23,500 for 5 days, basically $4,700 a day for 5 days, whatever they can get done.
So I'd like to get the approval to get these guys lined up for this year to do crack sealing.
I'll move that we approve the 2024 crack sealing estimate of $23,500 as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of approving expenditure for $23,500 to Fresh Coat Asphalt Services out of Barrie, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
And I talked to Shade. He's aware that he can't start till after July 1, because that's when it's in the budget. So I think you need to just accept that.
Sorry, Donna, my mic was off. We moved and it was accepted that we were going to approve the Fresh Coat Asphalt Services for $23,500. I made the motion and Patty seconded it. And it was approved, so thank you for that. What's next, Russ?
So I'm going to just move the excavator down to the bottom as the last thing to bring up. Next is the mud season for hopefully the mud season we've had, but I don't know. We might be having more, but for the major mud season that we've had, just to give you guys an update, we had quite a bit of mud and rough roads, and still have some rough roads, but mud and ruts are pretty much depleted. We utilized all the stone that we had in inventory at the town garage and up at the Beartown pit. So that stone is gone. And after that, we started hauling stone out of Nadu's pit and Johnson, and they didn't have a lot, and they won't be making any more until summer comes and they start crushing again. So we moved to Wickham's out of Winooski, Colchester area, started hauling from there. Some right to the roads, others was hauled into the garage, and then we hauled back out of there. Pretty extensive work there for a little while, but we hauled a total of 59 loads of stone to 14 different roads within the town. And I feel that we did a great job. We got to any complaints quickly, ones we didn't know about, and the crew did very well to get around to make the roads passable in the town. So without those guys, we can't do anything. So, but very good with that. And hopefully right now things are, other than being potholes and washboard in several places, things are pretty good. Anything on mud season? Okay.
Just for the public record, and I know you can't be exact, but what's the greater season? When can residents reasonably expect the grader to appear? But I know it's got to dry out.
And that's funny you say that, because Dwayne, who lives off Plains Road in Jericho, states, well, Jericho was able to grade Plains Road today. And he's said that like many times through the winter. Of course, our winter was not really winter, right, on and off. And it just shows the difference in elevation and difference from Plains Road in Jericho to Irish Settlement Road in Underhill. Any places we did try to grade didn't work out, turned to slime, and so it just didn't work out. Really what has to happen is the frost needs to come out of the ground and things need to dry up. And when that will be, we thought Monday, I think it was Monday, we were going up on Lower Ingo Settlement Road to run the excavator with the mulcher, and Dwayne and I were going up, and he's like, this road could be graded. And we're like, yeah, I think it can. So after that, I was going to get Scott out on the grader, and it was a short time after that it started snowing, and I'm good thing we didn't, because it would have turned right to slime. So
I think the key thing, don't you agree, is you need to have some future good weather. You can grade while the weather is good, but then if the weather's not good for the next couple of days, you're wasting your effort. Right. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree highly.
You got to let it be traveled on and set up and dry.
I think a good rule of thumb is that when sugaring is done and the trees start to bud, that might be a good sign that you might be able to start grading. Yeah. But you'd want to wait for that sugaring to be done. Not that the sugar makers are causing any,
right?
But when they're done, that's usually a sign that the roads are starting to dry out. And
right. Within that mud season time period, we also did have 2 failed culverts on Silly Hill Road, and luckily they were only quarter mile apart, so our equipment was up there. We moved from one right to another, but we're able to get those replaced with inventory that we had at the garage in a very timely manner.
Russ, how was plowing with the road softening up? I almost feel a little guilty about not giving you permission to buy that specialty blade?
It's happened before.
Well, could you hear me when I was plowing?
No, but as they softened, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, crap.
I respect you for what you were saying that
Yeah.
meeting, and it was very difficult.
Yeah.
And it is still a little bit difficult, but more so with bumps and washboards. The sides of the roads are still pretty soft, but we can kind of carry the wing a little bit just to get the majority of the snow off the road without, I mean, you'll see some dirt on the side of the road, but it's hard when the truck's doing this to really get it. And you have to get the snow off the road, because if you don't, then when it melts, it's in the road. So it was very difficult. We did have some damage. It happened to be to my plow, where the shoes dug in and broke off the plow. So we did have some repairs to do to the plow, but it's back up. We happen to have the parts in stock and got it back together. But
Are you saying you want to revisit that and vote on that now, or do you?
Not right now, but we'll move that when you're ready to move that.
no,
It was Murphy's Law.
in another sense, it was good because we were able to go to the Dwayne and Scott went over to Cambridge, and they have a set of the blades, and they have built a set like a different style that they built themselves, and to kind of see how they worked next to each other. And I guess what they got out of it was they both work very well. The ones that we wanted to purchase are very easy to install and replace, where the other style is more handmade and built with raw steel, and you got to drill, and it's a lot. So it's more time consuming, and it might be a little cheaper to install or less expensive to install, but at the end of the day, it's probably not. So it's good too that one of the salesmen, Anthony, has sold quite a few of them. So it's going to, get some feedback from other towns as well. So yeah, it was rough, but we got through it.
So as we get to the end of this year's budget, let's assess what we have and move those forward. If we have funds available in this year's budget, we'll move those in.
Put them in next year.
Or we'll put them into next year's, but exactly.
That's the
Following year.
way.
But that way also, you have more flexibility if you needed more stone, to use the budget dollars appropriately, given the situation that you have in front of you. But
So
yeah,
back
so
onto, we just back up too on the mud season with stone. We do have a little bit of money left over in our stone budget, but we did use a lot of our stone budget. Is there some actually from the grants jobs that we did? Is that?
Yeah, so we're hoping to use we got some grant for our grants and aid were for ditch stone, not for road stone, but for ditch stone. But we don't forget, we have to purchase that ditch stone for the next phase that we're going to try to do on Lower English.
Right, that's what I'm getting at with.
Hoping that's going to bridge that job.
Right.
Right. And then we'll get reimbursed for that grant, catch up. So you're always, is the gravel line? How's the gravel?
Gravel line is good.
So
at the moment.
That's the key there, right?
Gravel's good at the moment.
Because you spread all that stone, and the next thing that's going to happen is when it dries up, everybody's going to complain that the stones, they're sick of driving over the stones. So now you got to cover up gravel.
We do have to do that anyways.
But I think you need to be careful, because it's kind of a big job up there, right? So it's going to take a lot of gravel and some stone.
It will take some gravel, but more stone.
More stone.
The stone is more like what I'm concerned about because of what we've had to purchase for mud season, and we have
But don't you agree? Most of the frost seems to be out of the ground at this point.
I would say it is.
So you wouldn't foresee.
No, having to we did purchase. We did put inventory back on hand as well. So we do have a stockpile of 1.25 inch mud season stone. So we have that as well.
My recommendation, if you can eke it out till July, then you're in a new budget cycle.
Right.
It's just being tight, and we've had to do this in the past. Sometimes you just got to tighten your belt up a little bit and try to get by.
We have some ditch stone, some, not a lot. So we will need to get more ditch stone.
So the grants and aid money that I'll get reimbursed for, I've been holding off, because I always like to kind of see what it's going to be. The money's there. It'll come in as soon as I ask for it.
Well, let's ask for it.
Okay.
That's
Well,
your guys' job.
I understand, but so that'll be the money to get the stone for what you're going to do.
But that's what I was anticipating, but I wanted to ask that question.
Yeah.
It's nice of you to be concerned about the stone.
That's right.
I didn't say Bob.
No pun intended.
What else you got?
Okay, so that big windstorm we had, or one of the two, our so-called grader shed, which is off the side of the salt shed, which they call it the grader shed because it was the grader shed on the old town garage that was across the road. And they took the material and basically took it from down here and brought it up there and put it on the side of the salt shed. And it's used for storage of not much good stuff, stuff that's just kind of got packed away and not used. The building is in disarray anyways, but when that windstorm came in, it basically took the whole sidewall off the building. So we've got to determine what we're going to do with that. And what we would like to do with that is to get a dumpster from like All Metals Recycling, or a metal dumpster, because there's a lot of stuff in there that's metal that is not being utilized, is to get rid of any scrap steel that's in there, and then get another dumpster for things that can be thrown in the non-metal dumpster. And the siding is all metal, so that's got to come off anyways, or it's off anyways. But and just start cleaning that up. And there'll probably be a lot of stuff that we need some storage, but the next step is going to be what we do for storage, and that's something that is going to take a little design and money. So that's not going to happen for a little bit, but we do need to get it clean. We should get it cleaned up and so on. I know one of the things that's piled in there are the shutters off the town hall, the old shutters. I don't know if those are ever planning on going back on the building or what, but that's one thing that's in there, that things like that, old signs and just old stuff, just it's not being used. So I'd like to get cleaning up on that, and so we could do that in times when we're not able to do other things as well, and get that. And the other thing with that is that's where we want to ideally put our new chloride tanks. So they'll be down on the level right next to the salt shed. And if we do get into using chloride with our salt usage, it'll be all right there next to the salt shed and very handier for us. So we do need to get that cleaned up anyways to get a site ready for those tanks, which are ready to be delivered.
Can you provide the board next time we meet an estimate as far as how much you think we're going to need for debris removal, roughly, and where that money would potentially come from to get rid of that type of thing? And if you need to have some type of shed for the antiquities and favorite things that need to be stored away, we can't possibly get rid of. I don't know if you necessarily have room for that stuff, or if we should consider maybe another overseas container, type of thing. I don't know. But if you could come back to us with a recommendation and, an approximate cost for getting rid of some of that stuff, and maybe give some thought as far as Green Up Day coming, that maybe we could roll some of that all into one. If we're going to be getting rid of some steel and having some dumpsters there, that maybe if we're going to do like we did, in years past, haven't we had some dumpsters there for people that wanted to get rid of some steel, and other one for tires or whatever.
Including any income you might get from the metal.
Right. Yeah, the metal will wash itself for what it costs to get the dumpster and trucking to get it out of there, I would imagine. The other portion would be, what I'll call trash or non-metal material. But most of it in there is a lot of metal stuff and just old stuff. A lot of it came up from the old garage, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
It sounds like a pretty tough shed, but did we file an insurance claim?
I don't think we did. And I
And
think that
should we not have?
No, the deductible's
It-
too high, I think.
is.
And I think given the situation with our passive insurance
Okay,
and the way they've been treating us very well, I'm
Okay,
just
gotcha,
hesitant
gotcha,
to do anything
gotcha.
like that.
Yep.
Um,
if the deductible is high and it's not going to meet the deductible, but just, it was a thought.
It's pretty deep building.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Okay.
rotten and
I'll come over and take a look and see. I'll come over and take a look and see what is there for the town hall, and I'll maybe ask the historical society if the shutters are historic or anything, or we can.
Yeah.
I'll work with you there and see what we can do about.
for the time being, like for metal wise though, you think it'd be okay to get a dumpster and start cleaning like the metal part of it, because that should wash itself.
I guess I'd rather wait and see if we can, for Green Up Day, because we're only talking like the beginning of May, right? So we're only 30 days away from having that probably come anyway.
True, but typically, so if we, like last time, we got reimbursed because we have this Green Up Day fund, or this chit and solid waste fund that Dan's aware of, but technically we're not supposed to be putting personal or town related stuff. It's not like it has to be Green Up Day related, so it has to come from the roadside. But you're right, if we got a metal dumpster for Green Up
I just
Day,
think,
then
just,
we could.
Save resources if we're going to have
Yeah.
to be playing with steel anyway, and it's going to be like the next 30 days. It just seems like, well, why not, do it all under at one time?
Our thought is this time of year, between storms or while we're waiting to be able to do projects, sometimes we're not that busy. This would be a good opportunity if we had a dumpster there that we could pick away at it and start getting rid of that stuff. And we would use one of our dump trucks to bring scrap steel down, but this would allow us to not tie up a dump truck, obviously, to put the stuff in. And as we're, taking that stuff, it could go right in the dumpster. And, if we have to go plow, we go plow. If we have to go fix mud, we go fix mud, but it would help us.
Do you think somebody would tie up a dumpster for a month, maybe? Say, because then you could span into Green Up Day.
Yeah, I know last Green Up Day, we didn't get hardly any
Hardly
scrap
metal.
steel. We got mostly bags of trash and some tires is what we got last Green Up Day. I don't think there was hardly any metal.
Well, if you want to get back with us with some rough figures and let us know if there's money in where it would be coming from, I think we could probably take action next time we get together.
That's next week anyways, isn't it?
Right, the 5th. Well, not quite. No, it's 2 weeks, actually.
Oh, we are in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Is that going to work?
All right, we can make it work.
I'm just wondering, do you prefer to take action now, or can we wait to find out what it's going to cost?
I would prefer, I'm talking just the steel. So we know that the steel,
It's going to wash.
we're going to get steel, we're going to get money for steel. So if we can get money for steel and it covers the cost of a dumpster and trucking, even if it was a few bucks to get, it's not going to be.
So I'll move to keep going. I'll move that we allocate a dumpster to remove the steel from the old grader shed. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question?
That'll be a in and out. I think that'll be an in and out for expenses if we get money for the metal anyway.
Okay. Any other discussion?
And we have other metal too, the whole plow blades and stuff too. So that's going to be,
It'll add up.
it'll all add up.
Ready for the question? All those in favor of getting a dumpster for removal of the steel up to the town garage, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. What else you got for
All
us,
right,
Russ?
just a little discussion on the excavator with the new mulch head that we purchased. I guess before I go into the discussion is, do we know if the loan for the excavator and trailer have been retweaked to meet our numbers?
My understanding is that we got the loan for what the amount was
We did.
at town meeting, and that we have allocated what bills have come in to date from that amount. So I don't know what's left in that original figure that, we took the bond for.
Right.
Right?
Well, it wasn't a bond, it was a loan. Yeah.
Loan.
So a loan, we did take the full amount that the voters approved.
Correct.
It didn't come to that amount, but I believe the way they handled it was to take the extra and just basically apply it to the principal, which renegotiated the term of the loan. So the principal was lower versus the payments are lower. That's what I understand happened.
So we technically we have money.
I'm not sure if that's happened or not.
Okay. Well, we'll have the discussion and then we can look at it further. But our discussion is going to go like this. So we have purchased the mulch head, which we're very excited about. And Monday we used it for the first time up on Lower English Settlement Road, where we are going to be doing the large stormwater project here in the spring and a large culvert replacement. So we have a large bank that is all trees, and the large trees we obviously have to cut by hand, but there's a lot of small, up to 3-4 inch trees that we can utilize this mulcher on, which we did. And it came out very nice, very impressive. I did take pictures before and after, so you guys can see how it operated. Dwayne did a very good job with it. What we did find, though, a couple things is to operate the mulcher, it's a thumb control on the joystick. So you have to hold the switch to make the thing turn. So all the time you're using it, you have to keep it pushed. So that's a kind of a hard thing to do. It may not seem like a hard thing to do, but over a course of a day, it's a hard thing to do. But then finding out that when you operate this machine, think of it probably not quite as long as this table, but it's got a spinning camshaft in it and knives on it. And it takes hydraulic fluid to operate. So hydraulic fluid also is needed to make the excavator operate. So when you're sitting still with the excavator, that thing has full power. But if you want to try to move the excavator to go back and forth on something, the excavator needs hydraulic fluid to do that. So it pulls hydraulic fluid from the mulcher to do the movements of the excavator, which makes it slow down. When we were first discussing this option with the dealers, Beauregard said that when the state purchased their excavators, they ended up having to add what they call a priority valve. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, it's called a priority valve. And what that does is where the fluid needs priority is where it goes. So the excavator itself takes priority over any attachment that's on it. Okay. So if you're sitting on a flat ground and you're trying to go side to side, it's not too bad. But if you're on Lower English Settlement Road and you're like this, you try to go to the right, you're fine because it's going downhill. If you're trying to work it up, it doesn't work as well. Or if you're trying to mow or cut brush along the side of the road and you hold the head there and you walk the excavator to cut it, now the excavator is trying to move its tracks, which is the highest priority, takes the most fluid. It doesn't work. I mean, it works, but it's still like you got to stop and then it starts back up and then you start going again. So what I did is I reached out to Beauregard's, and I remember them telling me in the beginning why we didn't add this was because it was in the tune of $20,000. So I'm like, well, we're thinking about the state who's taking down big trees, and they're sitting there and they're going down, and as they go down on a tree and they're mulching it all up, this valve just keeps it rolling and so on. And I said, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to be cutting smaller stuff. We're not taking down big trees, clearing lots. So they ended up having to add these valves to their excavators. So I talked to him today. I said, just for curiosity, what would it cost to put this priority valve in the machine? So he did us an estimate, $24,025. The good thing about that, though, it does take away the thumb control. So when you can do it either way. You can turn it on all the time, or you can run it with the thumb. So ideally, to make the hour efficiency with that machine is to keep it all going as smooth and as quickly as possible. This would be a good investment. as well as other things down the line that we may add to the excavator that is hydraulically run. Like a device that they have out there that interests us is when we ditch a ditch that has stone in it that we've already added, we can make a stockpile of that and then we can sift those stones back out of it. So they have like devices like that where this would come into effect. So my thought was if we had money available through that loan to add this priority valve, that would be the time to do it. If we did not, then it would have to be something we live with and then budget it later on.
I think you have your work cut out for you. Find out from Sherry, because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
I can't answer
You know what I
it
mean? Like,
either.
I think we gotta find out from Sherry, like, is it possible? And if it is, great. If it's not, it's not. And then
Right.
we gotta come up with a plan B. So I think that's the next step is like, we gotta discover, what is possible and kind of go from there.
So I can check with Sherry and,
Yep, should be in
and then we
tomorrow.
can discuss it the next.
Sure, we
Next
can
meeting.
absolutely put it on the next agenda and
Have the estimates and.
Yeah. But overall,
know where, where it would be coming from.
we've had a chance to use the new machine and very happy with it. And the mulch head is going to be
Do you think it'll work better on a flat road?
as far as going side to side, it will be. But once you start moving the excavator, like to go along the side of like if you hold the mulch head here and you got small whippy stuff, and you want to mow that,
So you just have to advance
and you want to set it, and you just want to go along the road, it slows down because to track the excavator takes so much power or so much pressure. But it's going to be it's a good investment that we did, and it saved a lot of time and work, and it really came out nice.
Any other questions for Russ while he's here? Thank you as always.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Now we are at the closing public comment period. So this would be a good time to come forward if you have any questions for the board or any comments that you'd like to make.
Come on up, sir.
Should I introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Peter Davis. I live on 15 Walbrook Lane. I'm here to comment on the animal control issue. As a first-hand observer of the dog culture in this town and in the country, it's out of control. Dog owners feel very entitled and do not respect non-dog owners' rights. As an exhibit, I will circulate this to board members. That is a picture of my leg. On October 2nd, I was bitten while running on Pleasant Valley Road by an unleashed dog, and the owner was present and witnessed it. That was reported to Jennifer appropriately, and she responded appropriately. But it's a public health issue that people are not really aware of, and you hear about the problems at Mills-Riverside Park, which is basically a defaulted dog park. It's not really a recreation park. But I just want not to put too fine a point on it. It I think is unappreciated that the dog owners are not respectful of other people. I'm a groomer at the Tomasi Meadow, and we have a sign specifically requesting that dogs are not allowed on the trail, and that's generally observed, but there are still dog owners that go there with their dogs unleashed and just let them loose in the meadow. Basically, all I really wanted to say, but I wanted to point out that this is not a benign problem. It's fairly widespread and growing. So, thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Your comments are on the record. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anybody else on the virtual end that has any closing comment for the select board? Seeing none, it's 7:30. We have warrants and minutes to review. So the first one will be, that was in your packet was.
I think it's the only one.
Oh, the only one is the, this is the warrant for dated 3/21/2024. I move that we accept the warrant as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
This packet was much better. There are a couple that still did not have double signatures. So I'm just going to keep bringing it up so that we're in compliance.
I
with the
noticed the
policy.
same thing. I didn't,
Yeah.
I was asked to sign some and, yeah, I noticed there were a few.
So are we going to approve just the ones that had the double signature and kick the ones back that do not?
Which ones didn't have the double signature?
So there's one, Allegiance, and again, there's only a handful. I think it was
Okay.
3.
I have one from Allegiance dated 3/13/24.
It's just a reminder to everybody that we need double signatures on all the invoices.
I'm not sure we want to hold the vendors hostage, though, for our, issue. And I think if we can correct it
Right.
without doing that.
There's a GMP, I think there's 3 of them. So I would agree with Dan that let's not hold these up, but just, I'm going to keep bringing it up until we get into the habit of making sure we're back in following the compliance of the policy.
The one from Whitcomb.
And there's a GMP one. I think that's the 3.
Can I say something?
Mhm.
I think the double signature is a very good idea. And been pretty good about that. And normally it's Brad that I sit down with and go over my bills with. Sometimes Brad's not around, and one of the times, which could have been these, is I brought them up to Jennifer and
Not have been here.
right, and I just brought them up to Jennifer and thinking that she was going to sign off, not putting Jennifer under the bus by any means, but I will be more aware of it and verify before I just drop something off. I'll make sure they get.
We're usually really good. We sit down, I just say, oh, what's this here? I usually know what a lot of the stuff you're doing. I'm probably more familiar with than anybody else in the office, what's going on. So
The only other thing I want to say about it is, and just something to think about is, so I know why this is being done and so on, but like, if I bring in a slip for a tool, so to speak, and Brad's not available, Sherry is, so Sherry signs off on it. And then somewhere down the line, where's this tool?
who's on the hook for it?
Really like, Sherry or somebody, Brad, even Brad. I mean, would you think it should be somebody else within the same department? So there's 2 people that are accountable within that same department?
That's how fraud happens.
Oh,
That's a major.
I
red
just
flag.
thought, looking at it this way, is I could tell Brad or Sherry anything what this slip was for a tool, and okay. So
Well, I guess I would back up a minute, and Sherry's been treasurer for a long, long time, and she's seen 20 years worth of bills, so she got a pretty good feel for what's what. And I think I gonna do too. I get your point, totally. But if I see something a little bit odd, I'm like, oh, I've asked you, what's that? And most of it's, But yeah, without going to like a PO system,
Right.
Which I don't think we want to do, would be too cumbersome. You're saying like have Dwayne or Scott or somebody sign off.
That's what I thought. So if
Yeah.
something was missing,
The auditors would never go for
okay,
that.
it was just
Never.
a thought. I wasn't
Yeah.
trying not to have anybody else
It
sign
also
it.
helps with inventory control. It's like if whether it's Sherry or Jennifer or Brad, you get a sense of the tool structure, and that can help with inventory and setting up, what limits we track specific tools and what we don't track. So just the more people that know what is coming in through the process of purchasing and into buildings, the better.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I just was something I had thought of and wondered if it was more of a.
So there is a motion on the table. It has been seconded to approve the warrants for 3/20/2024. Is there any further discussion? If not, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the warrant for 3/20/24, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Next. Is the same. So the only minutes I have are the minutes that we received tonight for Thursday, March 14th, 2024. I move that we accept them as presented. Is there a second?
Second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0. I think that's it. I don't think we have any other warrants or minutes that I'm aware of. Anybody else got anything? Okay. Member items, correspondence, announcement schedule. The next select board meeting is scheduled for Friday, April 5th, 2024, which will be including a public hearing to consider an implementation grant and get input from the public regarding the Harvest Crossing Affordable Housing Initiative. Did we set a time for that meeting, Brad?
Yeah.
6 p.m.
Sorry, 6 p.m.
on a Friday?
On a Friday.
Okay.
It'll be quick. Dan will be in Athens
Oh, yeah.
joining us from
The birthplace of democracy, right? Athens, Greece, birthplace. Can we go with that?
probably.
First hotel. Maybe I'll sit,
Your microphone is off.
Whoops, hold on. I'm sorry. I
Your mic's
think your
off.
mic's off. Yeah.
That is the view from the hotel. So I think I will, because it will be late at night, nobody will be there. I'll go down to the patio and have this as my backdrop.
Very nice.
Excellent.
Pat-
Look forward
Pat-
to seeing that.
Patty and I are going to give you some money so that you can raise a glass and celebrate while you're doing that.
I did include one piece of correspondence, and it was a road concern on Mount Vista. I think you got the same letter. Okay. But anyway, not that it needs to be discussed. It was just in your packet. If you want to put it on a future agenda item, we can.
Okay.
So, and the only thing I'll say, I just want to explain for the viewers out there that, and I don't know if people have been quite following this, but just again, for the record, in order for the select board to function or to have a meeting, a legal meeting, we need all three folks or all three members here. So the 28th was a conflict. So we've canceled that meeting and we've rescheduled it to April 5th, which will be the Harvest Crossing. We planned on doing the Harvest Crossing on March 28th. But, and we used our new 7 days. And I will say it was half the price of the free press. And they were so great to work with. I think that was an excellent move. And I don't know if you saw my post on Front Porch Forum about it.
Yep, I saw
But,
that.
so anyway, and then I think going forward after April 5th, we may try to, Dan's going to be gone for a while. So we'll do our best not to have to get him in.
Might be hard to send them smoke signals.
Right. But if we do, I guess I'll just say if we do have to have some sort of emergency meeting, we'd probably consider a noontime meeting. So Dan didn't have to, and it would be very, very short just to authorize. But I'm going to find out some more information about, I believe the chair, I was supposed to do that today, Dan, and it slipped away from me, to see if the chair can authorize signature for the warrants. So I'll work on that. I'll let you know.
Anything else? Before we move on to executive session, is there anybody willing to serve on the task force with the Park District and with the town of Jericho to work on this dog issue?
I'll volunteer for that.
Okay. So have.
And I'll be involved.
If you can
John.
coordinate with John, let John know that we'd like to create a task force and Patty will be on there. And I'm not opposed to members of our staff being on there as well, but I think
definitely Jennifer.
I think it'll definitely carry some weight, having you there. And I think that's great because I think you have a abundance of knowledge when it comes to canines, right?
Yep.
I could actually, when you go into executive session, they're having their meeting tonight, I could text him and maybe we can make that happen.
All right. So without further ado, we will now go into executive session per 1 VSA section 313A3, the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee. I move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of going into executive session, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. It is now 7:42. Could you please stop the recording?
Okay, just for the record, we will not be returning. So on Mount Mansfield Community TV. Thank you.